This month's cover story is on the special teams revolution. Great headline from our brain trust there. Kickbait is what's on the cover, and the photo is of that monumental.
It's a good headline.
It's a great headline. That monumental kick block that was returned for a touchdown in Philly, and I wanted to. I'll bridge the gap between the two discussions with this, because one name that I almost put on the Giants head coaching list, and I didn't, and the Giants were the last team to hire a special teams coordinator. But one name that I almost put on the list, and I didn't, but he will be on my head coaching list in my top 25 that comes out in a couple weeks, is Frank Ross from the Houston Texans. And I talked to Frank for this story. And one of the things that Frank and I talked about were the fact that this is a more complex and complicated arena than ever before. And you're seeing the coaches who are excelling at it right away. And those are good coaches, period. Right? Like the coaches in Carolina, the coaches in Houston, the coaches in Philly, right? The coaches in Minnesota, guys who were really good at the new special teams format immediately. And that means that it's not just that you're a good special teams coach, but you're good at anticipating, you're good at planning. I think that this could have some pretty large scale ramifications when we're talking about an increase in kick blocks, returns, all that kind of stuff. I mean, special teams is a true third phase right now.
Yep, there's no question. And I'll give the league some credit. They did want to make sure, it wasn't so much that they want to save that area of the game. I don't know that the league office cared that much about it, but I give the special teams coaches themselves credit for being creative and proactive and going after it. And how can we help fix this in a way that's going to appease the league office, the owners, and, I think guys like Darren Rizzi and John Fossil and Richard Hightower, Joe Judge before he left the league and went back to college, there have been a handful of guys that have been really involved, at a grassroots level. I'm how do we fix this? John Harbaugh deserves credit, right? Because he kind of championed the effort of the special teams coaches. And so I think, that's one thing that's so interesting about it too, is you have these guys who are really good football coaches who obviously had a vested interest in the in that area of the game surviving, and making it out the other side. And how do we make these plays competitive and safe? So you've seen the innovation with the extra point. Now you're seeing the innovation with the kickoff. I'm a huge purist when it comes to that stuff. I think the foot should be in the game. I think that third phase is a important piece of football. So I'm glad to see that, we're seeing a little bit of a renaissance when it comes to plays on that side of the ball.
Roger Goodell said it when he was in London that sometimes when you fix something, you break other stuff in the process, because someone was asking about the increase in blocks and the increase in all that other stuff. But with the NFL, and you hate to give them too much credit for being 3D chess players, but I think that the error in this case is a massive benefit, because kick blocks are good. Kick blocks are really good for the NFL. Punt blocks are great for the NFL. It's amazing to me that they have found a way. I mean, you used to run to the bathroom, right, when an extra point was coming up. You can't anymore. It has such an outstanding impact on over the course of the game that you can't miss a play now. And I really do think, to their credit, that is the ultimate victory in all this.
For sure. I agree.
Where do you think this goes? Because it was funny, in talking to a bunch of coaches for this story, they're like, well, the increase in blocks, it's happening in high profile situations. It's not really a total increase. We'll see at the end of the year. It seems like there's going to be an increase. There's going to be an increase in blocks. There's a 75% increase in returns.
Yeah.
We're seeing knuckleball kicks. We're seeing all sorts of stuff. And I think we're going to see more of that in the coming weeks. And I write about that in the story. But where do you think this goes? Because, for example, we're heading into the winter months now. It's freezing cold here. The ball's going to start doing different stuff with a different wind and different air. I mean, special teams could come to define the playoffs as well.
I mean, that was one of the things that I think a lot of coaches I talked to, when they were doing the new kickoff rules, had mentioned was the skill of being able to put the ball where you want to put it, right? Not just kick it through the end zone, put the ball where you want to put it. and then do it when there's weather. And so, I think the value of a great kicker could be increased as we get closer to the playoffs, as the weather gets worse in certain places. And, I think teams are going to have to be innovative that are in warmer weather spots. They're going to have to be innovative in preparing their kickers for those things, So that's part of it. And I think that there's like always a cat and mouse game with all of this, but I would say like the bigger impact's probably when we get to the off season. And, does this change the value of certain kickers? Does this change the value of return men? Does this change the value of a draft prospect, right? Like let's say you're a great corner or receiver, and you also bring return value. Can that help to be a tiebreaker now? And who's the first or second corner off the board? I think all of those things. I don't know. I think all of those things are definitely in play.